So as you may be able to see, I am still stranded in Dublin Airport waiting for my flight home, which I'm hopefully about to get on shortly, which means I will miss the last few minutes of New Zealand v South Africa. So let's talk about that game then. My initial full-time hot takes immediately following New Zealand versus South Africa at Twickenham, the final World Cup warm-up game for both of these sides and two of the world's top few teams. And, well, what can I say? Unless there is one of the most almighty comebacks in rugby history, which let me just cover myself in case the bit of the game I miss. What an unbelievable comeback by New Zealand that was. Unlikely. So let's talk about an absolute beatdown for South Africa. I think the first thing to say is how I knew that New Zealanders were humble and very generous. In fact, my nephews go and hang out at the Lensbury in West London, near where my brother lives. And they've been bumping into New Zealand players this week where they've been training and just saying they've been amazing, playing rugby with the kids and all the rest of it. So I knew they were very humble. I didn't realise quite how much so, because New Zealand took it upon themselves to, whilst at Twickenham, do an amazing impression of England. That's so sweet. We know that New Zealand must have had the home dressing room for this one. That was frighteningly one-sided, wasn't it? Also, New Zealand did a brilliant impression of England with their discipline, and in particular, Scott Barrett's red card. Let's talk about that for a second. Right. If you were up in arms about Owen Farrell earlier this week, or the last week or so, you've got to be outraged at that tackle by Scott Barrett. I love the guy. I don't want him to miss a single game of the World Cup if I could make a choice, but that guy is incredible. But that was a ridiculous thing to do. That was way worse than Owen Farrell's tackle in the game against Wales. That was way worse. So Scott Barrett could end up missing the whole World Cup from that, because he's got previous. In fact, Owen Farrell had never had an international red card before that moment. Scott Barrett does. So I really worry that he's going to miss a significant chunk. He's definitely out of the France game, but that could potentially be his World Cup done. I hope not. But as a passionate Englishman, I'm just interested to compare and contrast the outrage at Owen Farrell with what the internet says about Scott Barrett, because I think it'll be revealing how little reaction there is for Barrett compared to Farrell, and I think that will kind of reveal that it might not all be about just purely the tackle. It might be about how people feel about the man or the nation. But anyway, that's another point. I hope no player misses the Six Nations for a tackle. What can we say? Just power. Absolute raw power from South Africa. I mean, ballsy to have seven forwards on the bench. I mean, I wish they'd have gone for the full 8. That would have been awesome. How long till we see an 8-0 split on the bench? That would have been amazing. But at one point, so New Zealand had 7 forwards on the pitch for most of the game, and South Africa had 7 forwards on the bench. It's crazy. I just scribbled down a couple of notes. Just forward power. I mean, Tyrell Lomax, I hope he is fit. I hope that injury is not serious, because he's an absolute class act, and I really want to see him at the World Cup. But South Africa just took New Zealand apart, and I thought Ethan de Groot was approaching elite world-class levels, and I think he is one of the best. But Franz Mullerber, oh my goodness, ate him for breakfast. I guess if you're a New Zealander at the minute, you might be a bit shell-shocked. You've just got to remember 4 years ago when New Zealand looked great against South Africa day 1 of the World Cup, and we know how the World Cup finished 4 years ago, and I'm sure South Africa will have that in their mind as well. So it's far from done, but that is a hammer blow to the confidence of the New Zealand team, especially. Keenan Moody and Andre Esterhuizen as a centre partnership, loving it. Moody is a baller. My goodness. His first ever international game at 13, his first professional game at 13. He's played there as a schoolboy, but not as a pro, and he looked to the manner born. Love that guy. What else can I say? Pieter-Steph du Toit, a yellow card. I'm glad it was only a yellow. Also, I feel a bit sorry for him that it was a yellow, because it's one of those where I know we want to get dangerous tackles out of the game, but also I think we're in danger maybe of trying to legislate accidents when you can't. Accidents do happen in rugby, and I don't know what else Pieter-Steph du Toit was supposed to do. So I felt a bit sorry for him even having a yellow card there. but it didn't really matter. As soon as he came back on, he scored a try, and that was that. So, have you ever seen New Zealand scoreless? Again, the game hasn't finished at this point, but they were scoreless for that long, I'll say. They were wasteful. They had opportunities. What else can I say before I'm done? Qatar adverts around the ground were annoying. Brian Habana hasn't aged, annoyingly. Do you remember how we used to talk about Keanu Reeves, how he looks the same as he did before? Brian Habana's getting to that stage. South Africa have got a great kit. Love their first team jersey. The changed jersey, not so much. But New Zealand's kit is not nearly as bad as the fan version with all the flowers on it looks. Or at least the New Zealand kit from afar looks quite good. Crowd looked like they were having a great time. It was nice to see Twickenham bouncing, people having a good time. And it seemed like South Africa and New Zealand brought their DJs along. Weren't afraid to drop a little bit of 90s hip hop in there and some Oasis and stuff. It was a warm-up match. It was a warm-up match, and it was full-blooded, full-on. You absolutely love it. So yeah, I hope that the cost for New Zealand isn't too serious. For South Africa, I mean, what a confidence boost. They're in a great place. New Zealand, I don't think it'll affect them as much as maybe the newspapers will be saying this time tomorrow. But food for thought. Loved the game. Loved the attitude of the fans. Love that both teams came to play hard, and South Africa, you've got to tip your hat to them and say they have just set themselves up for that game against Scotland in the best possible way. Game on. Thank you very much for watching. Even when I'm stuck in an airport, I still do my best to get the content out. So if you appreciate that, you can thank me by hitting that like button and telling other people I exist, leaving your comments and hitting subscribe. Thank you. See you on the next one.